Hi, my name is Beth Azor, and I own shopping centers in South Florida. And this is my podcast, I Own a Shopping Center, Now What? This is where I like to share with you some tips that I have learned and used over the many years that I've owned shopping centers, both as a GP and also as an LP, and operator, manager, leasing agent, property manager, picking up papers when I'm walking extraordinaire. Today, what I thought I'd talk about is the importance of knowing your tenants, especially the mom and pop tenants, the non-national tenants, or in the case of nationals, certainly knowing a little bit more about nationals, but also meeting with, speaking to, and knowing the manager of the national tenants. There's so much you can glean about a person's business if you just ask them the right questions. And there's so much you can do as a property owner to help the tenant out because, as we all know, rent is a function of sales. So the more we can do to help drive sales, the better. So I know that many of you are not marketing whiz kids or, like in my past career, a special events coordinator. So I tend to like to do events at my properties, or at least encourage the tenants to do events at the properties, because events not only help the tenant, but it helps the other tenants, and it also helps leasing. I have a tenant who sells college apparel, but also local team apparel. And recently, we down here in South Florida won the Stanley Cup in hockey, so that's the championship. And my apparel, college and team apparel store hosted an autograph signing for two of the members of the Stanley Cup team. He pre-sold tickets, which is a great idea, so that we would know the extent of how many people were going to show up. Since a couple 100,000 showed up at the parade, we wanted to make sure that we had an understanding of how many people were going to show up at the shopping center. So he ended up pre-selling about 250 tickets. The event was to be held on a Monday. It was between 12 and 2. Which just so happens to be a very busy time at our property with our lunch business tenants. So as soon as he called me and let me know that's what he was doing, and he was going to pay thousands of dollars for these guys to come to the property, I thought it was a great idea, but I wanted to give our restaurant tenants the heads up immediately about what was going on and assure them that we would save parking spaces for them in front of their stores. But I believed that they would get extra business that day because of the traffic that was coming to the property. I also believed that this event was going to increase the amount of people that was coming to the property that had never been to the property. You know, those of you that follow me know I'm a big proponent of understanding destination and impulse tenants. This college and team apparel store is definitely a destination tenant. And when you have events like this, he was going to be bringing hundreds of people to the center from miles away that, and for sure, maybe had never heard of our famous sub store called the Spot of Subs. So I thought it would be a win-win for all parties involved. But we did certainly tell all of the tenants as soon as we knew that this was happening. We cordoned off or put orange cones in front of like Aspen Dental, which is located right next to this store, to make sure that their customers had parking spaces. We worked with the local police to make sure they weren't going to ticket people that were going to park on the street where parking is usually not allowed. We had a couple tenants. We had Mission Barbecue and Playa Bowls, which is like a bowl concept, acai bowl concept. They gave away Mission Barbecue gave away sliders and little mac and cheeses, and Playa Bowls gave little smoothies and some bowls, which is great. Another one of our tenants, I think the hair salon, passed out water to the hundreds of people standing in line. So it worked out really well. It got great reviews. Facebook was brimming with pictures and people were showing their La Spada subs along with getting their autographs. So it was great. And so when they called me and said they were going to do this, I have a vacancy a couple bays down from their store. And I said, will you need this vacancy for that day? I wasn't sure why they would use it, but I made it available to them. And it actually helped because they had huge UPS shipments that day of new merchandise for the championship. And they had nowhere to put it in their store because they had cleared a section of their store for the autograph signing. So it was a big help for them that I opened the vacancy, and literally 5 minutes after I opened it, the UPS truck shows up. And so they were able to unload boxes of new merchandise and put it just in for a few hours, the vacancy, so they didn't have to worry about where they were going to cram it in their store while they had all of those people and the whole autograph thing set up. Other tenants, for example, right before Valentine's Day, knowing that we have a massage place, and I went to them a month before Valentine's Day and said, hey, do you want to put up a banner in front of the property advertising your Valentine's Day packages? So knowing, I'm not going to go do that with Metro PCS, right? But I'm going to think about what can I do by knowing my tenants' businesses. I know that back when we have my properties, 3 of them are across from a college. So I know during the summer it's slow because a lot of the college students go home. So, but I know that back to school, like the couple weeks before Labor Day, it gets very busy because the kids start coming in, the parents start moving the kids in. So on top of it, I'm asking them, are you ready for back to school to come? I'm having dialogue with them. There was a card that the meal plan involved some of the restaurants around town. I reached out to all of my restaurants and said, hey, have you signed up to be part of the college meal plan where these kids can use their parents' money and go eat at local restaurants? So I heard about that and got the information through to my tenants so that they could participate if they wanted to. Those are just some of the ideas, but by speaking to the tenants, understanding, I just talked to another one of my tenants recently, and I said, oh, I saw that you opened another location in this, submarket nearby. And I said, did you buy out the other juice guy company? He goes, yeah. And she told me about that. She goes, yeah, we're opening our 8th location next week. So being able to talk to her and know more about her business. We have a diving place where they teach people how to scuba dive. So, during the months that's busy, I'm checking in with them, finding out how business is the rain affecting their business? So just having dialogue and not being afraid. What I find when I talk to other landlords and operators is they don't talk to their tenants. And I ask, why do you not talk to your tenants? And a lot of them say, we're afraid what they're going to say to us or what they're going to ask us for. So I guess I get that a little bit. You think that you're going to have some dialogue with them and they're going to ask you for an extra parking space or rent reduction, or can I pay my rent late? This apparel guy, the college and the team apparel guy, right at the first of the month, right, like probably June 28th, right after we won the Stanley Cup, he called and said, hey, I'm ordering X amount of new merchandise for the championship. They don't know until like the end of the game that they won the championship. So he's pushing the button of hundreds of thousands of dollars of orders 5 minutes after the game is played. So he's got to front all of this money and then get shipments as soon as possible because people want to buy this merchandise. So he reached out the day after the Stanley Cup and said, hey, will it be okay if I pay rent on the 10th of July because I'm putting out all of this money for new merchandise? And of course, this is a guy who pays rent on time every month. Of course, I gave him that latitude because, of course, I want him to spend money buying new merchandise because that's how he gets people into his store and therefore our shopping center and into the sub shop next door. So don't be afraid to talk to your tenants, understand their business, what's hot for them, when is a slow time, what could increase. We talked about in past episodes about dwell times, how I pipe in music and I have benches for people to hang out on so that it increases their dwell time at the property if they feel comfortable after they just eat a big sub. Or do they feel comfortable sitting chatting with their friend while this nice music is being pumped in? And they say, hey, let's go walk down to that Heat or Panther or Dolphin store. Maybe they've got something for an upcoming game. So don't be afraid to talk to your tenants. If they do start asking you for things and they take advantage of the relationship, then of course, no is no. No is a complete sentence. You can shut them down. But I find that the more I know about my tenants, the more I know about their business, what ticks, what works, what doesn't work, the more I can help them for zero or no money, right? The more I know what other tenants I can bring in that would help them. And I think it increases sales, and increased sales means better rents. So think about it. And I know that many of you own shopping centers not in your home market like me. I drive by my shopping centers. I'm in all of my tenant spaces often, but I'm sure that you make trips to your properties. And if you don't, you should. Even if you have third-party managers and leasing people, you should make trips to your properties and you should meet your tenants. But in the meantime, before you have a chance to go out there and do that, challenge, if you have third-party property managers, challenge them to tell you one thing about each of your tenants, one tidbit about their business that it's important for you to know. After COVID, I remember walking in a mall and seeing the line for Nike and TJ Maxx like wrapped around the mall common areas. I couldn't believe it. And I was dying to find out, why were there hundreds of people standing in line at these two stores where the rest of the mall was dead? So you want to know what ticks for your tenants, because you never know. You may be able to help them tick even better. So don't be afraid to speak to them. Don't be afraid to ask them questions. Look, I have a lot of tenants that I inherit that I don't get sales from. That doesn't stop me from asking them. I have a deli that I probably am eating in once a week or once every 2 weeks. And when I see the owner and we start kibitzing just about whatever things, I go, so, how you doing? Did you beat this year over last year? Are you doing 50 grand a week? Like, I just throw some numbers out there and see what they'll say. And it's helpful. It's very, very, very helpful. The more you know about your tenants, the more you know about their businesses, the better owner of a shopping center you are going to be. So take the time and learn something and let me know. Let me know how it works. Let me know what you learned and how it helped. And if you like this podcast, share it with someone that you know that would like this information, especially if they are shopping center owners. Have a great week.